Hello, so today's going to be another 6 warrior game. I don't know how I keep finding myself into the melee spots, but a lot of times it's just like early item drop. 6 warrior is still quite strong. Some of the units are going to get a lot more buffed come this Wednesday's patch. There's a lot of the low cost units that are getting buffed, so definitely playing towards 6 warrior is always a viable option. If you don't know the line, it's basically you just play all the warrior units and you use an emblem, and then with that emblem, you get a huge amount of extra damage, as well as extra omnifam. So it makes your itemizations really interesting, because a lot of times you can even forego extra omnifam for just giga damage. And it's also pretty flexible because all the warriors kind of slot in very nicely to either play around Arcana, that you can just play like Arcana with the 6 warriors, or more often than not you're playing Preservers because you have good synergies with all of the warrior units. You can get a free Chrono in with the Zillion, you can play around Bard with the Gwen, you can play around Morgana with the Fiora. It just fits in really nicely together. And there's also really great ways to itemize. There's lots of high rolls that you can do. You can go for the reroll variation, and then you cap out really high with like a Katarina 3, a Kali 3, Nyla 3. You can also play just as a level 8 comp, where you're just like trying to go 8 and then fast 9 to play around some 5 costs. The warrior emblem itself is really good on a lot of units as well. You can play them with like the same way you would play Karma Preservers. You can just play like a Nasus and a Briar to get in Shapeshifter, or a Nico and a Briar to get in Witchcraft and Shapeshifter, and then just like put emblem on Briar. You can also play towards Bastions around Diana. There's basically like any melee unit or frontline unit can basically make use of the warrior +1. Looking here, I'm not sure exactly what I should take. Cluttered Mind is good. Combat Bandage is okay. I decided to take Not today. I'm scouting around. The Galaxy is item payout. If you look at my current items, they're not particularly great. I got bow, glove, chainmail. They're not that bad, right? They're okay. But because item payout, I have to slam an item instantly. Slamming a Last Whisper is pretty bad because a lot of the lines want the bow to be primarily used as a different item. So a lot of times you don't want to slam Last Whisper too early, because for example, if you want to play Wukong Jinx, you really want to make a Gwynsu. If you want to play Callista, you really want to play a Gwynsu. The other Last Whispers users, you can make a Last Whisper for like, you know, a melee style comp as well. But in this case, I'm just gonna make a Titans. That's why I took Edge of Night. The Edge of Night augment here, because that's like for melee units. Basically, it gives you a free Edge of Night, and Edge of Night basically de-aggroes you. It's basically like for melee units to go crazy. It gives them a bunch of attack speed via the augment. It also gives you the completed item. So here, I'm basically just playing towards melee. I don't want to make Last Whisper instantly. The reason I don't want to make Last Whisper is because I might not play around Fiora. When you're playing warriors, you're either playing Gwen, you're playing Fiora, you're playing Katarina. There's AP as well as AD, and you're gonna have so much damage anyways that you could probably like stall out and make your Shred and Sundering a lot later in the game, in my opinion. It's just like, without knowing the proper direction, you don't want a tunnel vision on Fiora. Then if you have a Gwen 2, you don't have items. I'd rather make a Titans that I can put on any of the units. That's a pretty like reliable now frontline AP AD tank item that works really well. So just to give you guys a little bit of insight to what I'm talking about. So I'll go here, I'll go stats, and basically the comp that I'm trying to play around is 6 warrior. You'll see that it averages pretty well. It has a decent top 4 rate. It's one of those comps where it's like, if you hit the +1 for warrior, by some means, if you hit a warrior spatula is what I mean to say, you'll be fine. And a lot of times you're just playing around Gwen Fiora and then Katarina, Kali, Nyla. If you can drop the Akali and the Nyla, you obviously will place better. That's like if you have multiple emblems, just because they don't do as much. But either way, you'll see that the next best thing that you typically see is playing around Preservers. It's always like 6 warriors and Preservers, and then in some niche situations it's playing around Arcana instead. You'll also see that Camille works really well with Zillion, just because it gives you 2 Chrono. 2 Chrono is getting nerfed, but 2 Chrono just gives your whole team a little bit of healing, so it actually works out really nicely. If we go here, it's going to be Carousel round in a second. Usually I talk about the whole team comp and I show the whole board. I already did a 6 warrior game like a couple days ago, so I don't want to be too redundant in this video and show you guys like the whole board. But basically I'm just going to plug in all the warriors. I'm not entirely sure if I'm even playing 6 warrior now, but I know that I'm playing some sort of melee frontline. If I'm not playing 6 warrior, then I'm going to play like a Karma Preservers flexible option, because I just took a melee item. Like I said before though, because it's item payout, that's why I had to make this decision really aggressively. Item payout forces you to make items early as possible in order to keep up with everybody else in the lobby. If you're not making your items early in item payout, then you're not getting your early gold cash outs. If you're not getting the early gold cash outs, you're just going to be behind on econ with everybody else. Here I'm losing every round. I'm first pick. I get a spatula. So spatula is great because now I guarantee that I have a warrior +1. It doesn't show it right now, but if you use a reforger on a spatula, it will turn into a frying pan, and then I can make a warrior. I think I'm on stream here. This was like the first game of my stream, so I'm spending a lot of time talking to chat. So obviously there's going to be mistakes throughout this game. I think especially late game, I know that there's a couple mistakes I'm going to point out that I made. But you know, I was distracting myself trying to explain stuff. The reason the emblem is really good here is because I don't have to. I know I'm framing this and explaining that I'm playing warriors. I can also play around Frost, right? I can play Frost Olaf. I can play around Pyro in some cases, but it's very, very niche. I wouldn't recommend it. But now that I have a spatula, I can basically decide, am I going to play Frost from this spot, right? Because with a Frost, if you have 7 Frost, like Frost Spatula does really well in stats. And it's just because 7 Frost is pretty stable. If you're 7 Frost Olaf and you're just playing like the Frost Pyro variation of a board, you'll be very strong. But I also could reforge the spatula and make a warrior emblem, and then 6 warriors, another option that you can play around. They're both about equally as well performing. It's just a matter of, do you want to be trying to hit the Olaf, or do you want to be playing towards Gwen Fiora? That's basically your main options here. Frost does allow you to potentially high roll. Like if you get a Frost emblem through augment, then you can hit like 9 Frost, and then you can try and win the lobby for free that way. So I definitely recommend like not tunnel visioning on warriors with melees specifically. If you have a spatula, there's a lot of enabling comps. That's kind of the big secret, or the big, not secret, but the big like untold story of a lot of the patches in recent set 12. If you have a spatula, it opens up way more lines. Like it's very, very hard to play the game without a spatula. You pretty much have to commit reroll, you have to commit Callista, or you have to commit like some other line and be very, very forcing. If you have a spatula, then you can force yourself into a bunch of other lines, right? If you have a portal spat, it makes Rise really good. Scholar spat makes Rise really good. Frost spat makes Frost very good. Fairy doesn't matter because you're usually just playing 5 fairy anyways. But hopefully you get what I mean, right? If you have like a +1 in any of those traits, it puts you in a different ballpark of like potential comps to play, if that makes sense. It's an enabler, if anything. So, anyways, if I'm trying to show the board, I'll just show you the board now because we can take a second. But basically, if we go on Team Builder and we go warriors, you basically usually just play all 6 warriors, and then you play a bunch of preservers. I'm not going to show all the different variations. I did that in a previous video. Usually you're going to drop. You're never going to play Rakan. But typically your board's going to look something like this. When you're playing around Gwen Fiora, Gwen typically likes to have blue buff. Oops, I'm on radiant items. My apologies. Blue buff. And then there's different item pairs that you can do. AP frontline items are really good. Like if I have to pick my favorite set of items on Gwen, it would be like blue buff, crown guard, and like, you know, like I would build her more like this. Like this is like my favorite type of Gwen. But Gwen's really flexible. You can pretty much put anything on Gwen and you'll be happy. But a lot of times you're trying to greed for blue buff, and then a lot of people, they'll put like Hodge JG just because of the pairing of the two items both being crit glove. This one makes your abilities crit. This one gives you a bunch of crit chance. So together, they make a really good item pairing. Which is really important when you think about items. The level 1 with items is always like what items are good, and then the level 2 is like, okay, what item pairings are better, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this video, which I'll try and explain. But you know, obviously I'm not a pro, so you know, I try my best here, but there's potential that I'm wrong in some situations, especially in these games. But anyways, a lot of times with Fiora, you want like full on like the tanky max AD damage to make her do a huge bunch of damage. So like Bloodthirster is really good with Titans and Sterix. These work out really well on her. You will note that I am Edge of Night, so I will try and make Edge of Night augment. So I'll probably try and put an Edge of Night on all of the units. So my item building, or my items that I'll try and build, is going to be something more along the lines of putting an Edge of Night on every unit to give them a bunch of attack speed. and make them de-aggro so that they're pretty strong. And then you can put utility items on Bard or Morgana or some other unit, but typically you're trying to play around this Morgana. There's also other variations where you play around like this type of board at certain points, where you get Scholar in with the Milio Bard, and then the Milio drops items for everybody. Because you're playing 6 Warrior, you're gonna have so many units that you could play around to do extra work for you. Additionally, you can also play around like Briar or Diana and just like build a board around having 2 Shapeshifter or 2 Bastion in, and having these people hold the Warrior emblems. But you're pretty flexible. You're basically just playing the Warriors and playing whatever you can hit. Here I'm pretty high roll. So my items worked out that I get a second Edge of Night, and I also found a Gwen. I want to go over the augment choice here. I was hoping that I would finish in time. So if we look at this augment choice, let's look around. So immovable object is pretty good with warriors just because it gives a lot of stats. I already have a duplicator, so I feel like new recruit is going to be a little bit troll. I should be able to hit my board in a reasonable amount of time. I rolled the first one just to see warrior crown. Because I'm just a little bit confused. So here there's a better there's 2 options, right? Warrior Crown is really strong right now. Lucky Gloves is also very strong right now. So Lucky Gloves is really good because I already have a glove on bench. So I'm gonna get at least 2 Lucky Gloves values, and I have a lot of units to itemize. I think the strongest thing that I can hit right now, and I might be wrong about this, is Warrior Crown. Warrior Crown isn't the strongest for the highest cap because you don't really need 2 warrior emblems, right? You only need 1 warrior emblem to hit 6 warrior, so it's not that useful. However, if I find a Nyla, I'm gonna be 6 warrior like in the middle of my mid game, right? So being 6 warrior really early is actually gonna give me an insane amount of tempo, and that's why I took warrior crest here, because basically now I have 2 warrior emblems. I basically just need a Nyla. I need a Nyla, or on Carousel I need a Fiora. If I hit either of those, I'm going to be insanely strong relative to the rest of the lobby, because I'm going to be like really capped out because of my high roll situation that I have a Gwen. If I didn't have this Gwen, I probably wouldn't take Warrior Emblem, because at that point it's like I'm not going to hit 6 Warrior, because it's really unlikely that I'm going to find a Gwen and a Fiora. It's like one or the other. So I'm not as inclined here, because I already found the Gwen. All I need to hit is a Nyla to hit 6 warrior. So that's really good. So if I find a Nyla, I'm 6 warrior out of nowhere. I have a huge amount of damage amp, a huge amount of omnivamp, even though they're all 1-star. This is stage 3, right? This is 3-2, by the way. So it's extremely high roll to find the Gwen. And that's my thought process, right? So now I'm just hoping that I find a Nyla in one of these shops. I'm not going to roll for it because that might put me in a really bad spot. But I'm trying to like high roll my mid game as much as I can in order to put myself into a position where I'm very strong for late game. I also have this champion duplicator, so if I find an extra Gwen, I can easily make like a Gwen 2. So that's why I took Warrior Crown. Now there's other augments that are going to be a little bit better into my late game. That's obvious because 2 warrior emblems doesn't really do all that much, right? I'm not going to have full items for everybody. It's not like it's Scuttle Puddle or Prismatic Party or something like that, where I'm getting a bunch of a huge amount of items for every single unit on my board. But rather, I just like the idea of I have 2 Edge of Knights. If I hit 6 warrior, I'll be really strong. They'll be hard to kill because they're going to de-aggro because of the Edge of Knights, and then with all the damage amp and the attack speed, they basically have everything they need in their kit, right? They're going to have Omnivamp, a huge amount of damage amp, and then they also de-aggro, so they're going to be very hard to kill. And then they also get a bunch of attack speed because of the Edge of Night augment that I have. So here, there's a Fiora on Carousel, and it's coming to my side. This is perfect. Hopefully, I get the Fiora. If somebody takes it, they take it. It's on a tier, so it's very hot commodity. But this is perfect. So now I get a Fiora. I'm going to be 6 warrior. This is what I was planning. If there wasn't a Fiora on Carousel, we were just hoping that we would run ourselves into a Nyla. It does look like there's a couple people that are maybe contesting towards warriors. I know that guy is playing multi-striker reroll, but there is one other guy that looks like he's playing Karma warriors, like Karma, like the Karma flex line, as you might know it, like Karma preservers. But right now, this is great. So I can play towards this Fiora. I just have to put her in. I also found an early Bard. I think it's definitely play Bard now. I've been playing Shapeshifter with Dragon just because I'm trying to give myself a little bit of frontline, and Dragon gives anti-heal, so it's a bit of utility for the mid game that can make me a little bit stronger. But right now, I think it's just better to drop everything and play towards 6 warrior now. I should be stronger than most people in the lobby. My board looks really ragtag and really like weak, but it's not like it's not. It's quite strong. So Bard's just gonna hold the warrior emblem for now. I'm probably gonna move this edge, like it's a Kali 2, so I kept Edge of Night on her. I think Gwen 1 does more than a Kali 2, so I have my 3 items on Gwen. She whiffed. This Gwen unit, the more I play these warriors, every time Gwen whiffs, I get so fucking tilted. Like, it is so annoying. But I should be stronger than most people. It should be fine, so, you know, we won't worry about it. But this Gwen unit misses so much. Like, every time I play her, there's at least like 3 times per stage that I look at my Gwen, and she's just ulting nothing. And I'm like, brother in Christ, please. Like, please. Or sister in Christ in this case. It's like, please. I think Wukong just has a solo frontline unit, like without synergies, is just a better tank than Swain by far. So I put Warrior Emblem on Wukong for now. Eventually that's going to change. I'm going to put it on some kind of preserver. I want to play Bard because in this case, I got the Gwen really early. So I'm probably going to be itemizing and playing this Gwen for most of my game. So I'd much rather set myself up to play around Gwen if that's... so I want to have Bardin to give me the Sugarcraft stacks because... at one point, that's going to be pretty significant. A mistake that I made the prior game is that I made a video on Warriors, like, I don't know, a couple days ago. And I didn't have Bardin early because I didn't find it. I wasn't playing the Preserver variation. I was trying to, like, pivot into, like, the Arcana variation because I remember that being very strong when I looked at the stats. And I remember it being higher cap. But in this case, I'm starting with Gwen. It's very obviously you play Sugarcraft to make sure that the Gwen's stacking. We're not trying to get like max cash out Sugarcraft. It's more so just like giving Gwen extra buffs is going to be really, really nice for later in the game because we're going to be playing around this Gwen for sure. So here I want to I want to use this remover on this Gwen. It's pretty important I do that. Bard I can always sell and remake, right? I'm not really too concerned. I'm not trying to hit like Bard 3 or anything. Bard's not really doing a whole bunch for my board. This guy's playing Fortune and he's playing he's Lucky Gloves with like 5 Lucky Gloves playing towards the same line as me, and he's I think a little bit more rich. If he cashes out the Fortune cash out, he will probably be stronger than me, which kind of sucks. I don't know if he already cashed it out or not, but that's just unfortunate. Here I have blue buff, so I'm down to just make blue buff and worry about the rest of my items later. I forgot to use my remover. You should always use your remover at the start of the neutral round because if you don't have a remover on your bench, you'll get a new one. So it's just a free remover in a lot of cases. Here it's just unfortunate now because now my Edge of Night is stuck on the Akali. If I had an extra remover, which I would have had if I used the first one, I would have got dropped a second one. I can then transfer the Edge of Night onto the Fiora. I really don't have any faith in this Akali unit, by the way. I don't know if things will change on Wednesday's patch, where they'll make her better by a little bit, like she's getting a small buff. But either way, I fucking hate this Akali unit unless you build her very, very specifically. Like, unless you have, like, Akali 3 with, like, pure damage items, like IE Hodge or Deathblade, something else. It's, like, very rarely does she ever kill anything. Here we're fighting Callisto 1 Rakan 1, so I expect to lose this as per usual. You know it's Callisto 1 Rakan 1, that's the patch, it is what it is. You know, if I wanted to have a stronger board, I could have just played Callisto 1 Rakan 1. Oh, this is the part that I really want to check. I remember I said on stream that I would check it, so I'm actually going to check it now. So please bear with me while I look at the stats for this. I'm going to go 6 Warrior, and I took Combat Caster here. And I just want to make sure that I didn't mess up, because I'm pretty sure Combat Caster is really good. So Big Gains is good. So Combat Caster is a 4.29, which is pretty good. And then Long Distance Pal is a 4.41. And then Row Rejuvenation is a 4.26. Ooh, it was probably Row Rejuvenation then. No, it's debatable. That's the part that I wasn't sure about. I remember Row Rejuvenation is pretty good. Because you're playing so many frontline units. It's not Heroic Grab Bag. I just took Combat Caster here. I wasn't sure which, like, they're all pretty good. Warriors is pretty flexible as long as you have, like, some sort of combat augment. They're all pretty good. Because, you know, combat augments that give you tankiness are good. I high rolled as fuck this game. Like, look at that shit. I just hit a Fiora instantly. Like, that was 2 shops. I hit Fiora 2. Like, hello? That's insane. That's so good for me. I should just, like, swap in the, I should swap out the... I gotta... Yeah, there we go. We got there. And then duplicate the Gwen, Edge of Night the Fiora. Perfect. That's what we wanted to do. Edge of Nights on the units that are going to do the most damage. I have Gwen 2, Fiora 2, 6 Warrior. I play Nasus to get like a Shapeshifter synergy to give me a little bit of a front line. And then the extra 2 Warriors for synergy. If we get like Rakan and Morgana, we can pivot to like 4 Preserver on level 8 as well. We just drop the Nasus and the Swain. But we can all, but basically, ideally here, the best case scenario is that I play towards Briar. Briar with Warrior Emblem is going to be very strong because Briar is just a strong unit in general, and then you give her like a Giga synergy, she's just going to be a monster. Nasus helps because you get a little bit of Pyro stacks. It doesn't really matter that much, but he's just like probably the strongest like solo dolo tank shapeshifter besides Briar. So I'm kind of down for that. Just one thing that you should always note is that you shouldn't get too baited by Preserver. Chrono is very, very strong, right? Chrono gives you a 20% heal after 14 seconds. So if I hit a Chrono unit, it's probably better than playing an extra Preserver unit. That's just something to keep in mind. Ideally, okay, I hit a Camille. So now it's definitely swap out the Bard, play Camille here, right? I can just like, yeah, I think I'm a bit slow this round. Camille with Warrior Emblem is going to be good enough. So we're happy with that. Like I said, you usually want to just put a Warrior Emblem on some sort of 5 cost and then build your board around that with Preservers. That's typically what you end up doing, right? If you think about all the best Warrior Emblem holders, it's either Briar, it's Diana, or it's Camille. And you're either going to play 2 Chrono with the Camille, you're going to play with the Briar, you're going to play a Shapeshifter with the Briar, or you're going to play like either a... usually if you're playing Diana, then you just go the Arcana route, because then you play Diana, Hecarim, and you play Arcana units. That's typically what I see, but you know, obviously there might be some variations or some differences there. I don't really need another spat. I'm last pick here. Ideally we get Sword. If we get Sword, we can make a Bloodthirster on Fiora. Now Bloodthirster isn't that important. We don't really care about the Omnifam. But I just kind of like having a sword item on her because I'm making Edge of Night, which is another sword item. And then I'm kind of down for the shield that you get from it. If you notice, in a lot of these fights, my Fiora is dying first. It's just a matter of like, you know, she's supposed to be a little bit more of on the tanky side because my Gwen items are a little bit more on the damage side. But she's just kind of getting deleted well before the Gwen. So it does feel like she needs a little bit of sustain. Here I also high rolled into a Morgana. So now we just play Vertical Preserver. I definitely think that Camille is better than Rakan. This is what I was trying to explain before. The amount of... yeah, see here, okay, let me explain 2 things, right? The first thing I'll explain is my itemization here. I felt like in the last couple of fights, my Fiora just dove around and fucking died. Like, she just died instantly. So I am 100% down to give her Bloodthirster. If my Fiora, like, I don't know, maybe if I didn't have Titans and I had like Sterek, she'd have like a little bit more survivability. Then I would be down to make like an IE and just go like pure damage with the Fiora and just like absolutely try and like demolish the backline. But in this case, I just find that she's always dying, so I'm down to give her Bloodthirster, not for the Omnivamp, but because it gives you a health shield, right? If you drop below a certain amount of health, it gives you a health shield, and that's usually like the second least at life that you're looking for. So it's that second effect of Bloodthirster is very, very strong. So I'm down to just put Bloodthirster on Fiora. I know that I have a bunch of Omnivamp because I'm 6 Warrior, and I know that it's not necessary to do that, but in this case, I feel like with the way that my board is constructed with all 1-stars and the way that I'm contested with other, like the other guy has like Morgana too and same board as me, I'd rather just have my Fiora live long enough to do an extra cast and do more damage. Now, here's the big thing. This is definitely a correct decision, by the way. 2 Preserver is way better than 2 Chrono is way better than 1 extra Preserver. If you read the difference between 3 and 4 Preserver, it gives you an extra 2% healing every 3 seconds. Chrono, however, after 14 seconds, heals your whole board by 20%. So, relatively speaking, that's gonna happen. That's gonna be way more healing, right? I'm not doing the math wrong, right? 3% every 2 seconds. It's like it's better for sustaining, like keeping yourself alive, because it's like it procs earlier. But if your board is gonna live long enough, like whatever board lives past 14 seconds, especially in these mid-game rounds where boards aren't like explosive damage, like it's not as swollen, like everybody's not perfectly itemized and fully upgraded, the chances are that my board is going to live for 14 seconds, or at least the important units are. And then that big heal is going to be more important, right? Preserver, like, you know, it's every 3 seconds. So if you count it, if you want to get to 20%, I know it will get nerfed to 15%, but 1 extra Preserver is not as important as Chrono. And Camille is also a really good holder of the Warrior Emblem, so I'm kind of down. I'm down altogether. Here, I'm just going to make, what's it called? Sundergun, Last Whisper, to give myself some shredding. Anti-heal doesn't seem that important because I'm doing so much damage. Like, either the unit dies, they die, or they don't, they don't. What's her name has a little bit of anti-heal, Katarina, but that's not super important. Here I take Artifact Anvil. I'm looking for a frontline item. So this part I'm not sure what to take. So Sniper's Focus is pretty bad across the board. It doesn't really matter that much in a lot of cases. Horizon Focus, if I had a Briar, I'm down for Horizon Focus, but in this case, I don't think I have anybody on my board that actually stuns, besides Zillion, but that's not real, right? Like, I'm not gonna take an artifact for Zillion. I bought this item because I wanted to get, like, either, like, there's a couple hits on Gwen and Fiora, like the AP items for Gwen, or the, like, AP items for Fiora, or AD items for Fiora, like Silvermere Dawn, something like that. The only item here that I think is takeable is Spectral Cutlass. The problem is, when you're itemizing with Spectral Cutlass, it gives some AD and it gives some crit chance, but I don't think I want my Fiora to just dive the backline. So instead, I'd rather just put Spectral Cutlass probably on the Camille, which kind of sucks, but it's a really good item pairing because Camille, Spectral Cutlass gives crit chance as well as AD, and I'm giving my Camille the Last Whisper, so I'm stacking double crit chance on her, which is pretty good. The thing is, I really like my Fiora items. I want my Fiora to be kind of tanky because I don't really have, like, a good tank, right? Especially with the Artifact Anvil miss. If I hit something like a Morgana item that would have made Morgana really tanky, I'm kind of down. But I'd rather have this Fiora live long enough to do multiple casts, and I don't think I'm going to get that with Spectral Cutlass. Spectral Cutlass is more of like an all-in for damage. I don't think it's that good on Fiora, though, because especially with Spectral Cutlass, a lot of times the Fiora teleports away. A lot of times you want Fiora to, like, dash through the front line, then dash to the back line. You don't want her to be, like, teleporting around so that her dashes are not going to the right unit. I'd rather have the Camille just pop on the back line, try and kill them, right? And then, like, do their damage. Now, the only problem is that it makes my Last Whisper, like, giga not good. Oh, here I'm trying to do a trick. So what I was doing there is I was putting my Camille on my bench and then moving it the last second. Because if somebody scouts you and you have items on your unit, it doesn't show up if they're on your bench. Or it often doesn't show up if it's on your bench. So what I was doing, I was trying to hide the fact that I had a Spectral Cutlass because I just got it this round. Or I got it the last round. So that's what I was trying to do. Now, it didn't really work well because the guy that I was trying to snipe was the Callista player. So it didn't work out. Like, there's a couple different item pairs that you can do. Like, I could have, like, I think the best alternative was to put on my Fiora Bloodthirster, Spectral Cutlass, and Edge of Night, and then just try and have her, like, snipe the backline. But personally, I just don't like that. I'm kind of down to just sack the Spectral Cutlass. I think it's understated, right? I don't think there's any unit where you put Spectral Cutlass on them and you're like, holy fuck, they're gonna win the game now. It's more so like, it's just a problem of, like, pairing the Last Whisper with the Spectral Cutlass makes it so that my armor shredding or my armor sundering is, like, not on the right unit, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit awkward there, but I don't want to put Last Whisper on Fiora because I like my Fiora items. I'm sure as I'm not going to put it on Gwen, so I'm just going to put on Camille and hope that she lives long enough to, like, teleport back to the front line. So, you know, it's just not awkward. It's awkward to play around it. It just I'm so excited and happy about my Fiora items that I don't want to switch them for fucking Spectral Cutlass. Now, this guy has a Briar too. He got the Briar on level 8. He has Eternal Growth, I think. Or, like, I don't know what the fuck his last augment is. It's not Eternal Growth, sorry. It's the get a 5 cost or whatever. And he high rolled and he hit Briar. He's been feeding the Briar, by the way. So he's winning every round and he's feeding the Briar. So that guy is definitely going to beat me late game. A fed Briar, if he feeds it a bunch of times, like, there's probably no way I'm ever going to kill it, especially with the board setup that he has, where he has, like, the shapeshifters and he already has a smolder. So we're playing for second at best here. We should always keep that in mind. Against this guy, like, I'm hoping that my Callista can just, like, snipe the backline and kill. If I get a, sorry, not Callista, my Camille. If I get a Camille too, though, I will be really strong. I don't think I'm beating the Briar player. I definitely could beat everybody else in the lobby. It just comes down to, like, really good positioning. I'm not really moving my Fiora around all that much, but I do have a Morgana. I'm level 9. I leveled to make sure that I'm, like, stable. You know, we're in an okay spot. I got Death's Defiance here. I just put on Katarina. In most cases, my Gwen is the one doing the most damage, but my Gwen's just living the longest because Fiora's taking a lot of the aggro. But I think everything's kind of worked out kind of okay. This is a case where the Last Whisper is really good on the, or not so good on, excuse me, on the Camille. Because basically, like, the Camille just dashed to the other side, got aggroed, and died. But as you can see, this is what I mean, like, you have so much damage that a lot of times, like, you know, I'd rather just keep the items that I have and not worry too much about putting the Sundering on the Fiora herself. Because I think the item pairing of Spectral Cutlass with any other crit item, like, I think in the best case scenario, it would be Spectral Cutlass, Hodge, Warrior Emblem, the fucking thing, like, if I had a Golden Remover, then it would be Bloodthirster, Blue Buff, Edge of Night on Gwen. And then it would be like Bloodthirster on Bloodthirster, Edge of Night, Titans on Fiora, and then Last Whisper on like random unit X, like Zillion. You know what I mean? Which at that point, it's like, what are we really doing here? It's like, might as well just put on Camille. In this matchup, it worked out fine. This was hoping the position would have done last time. If Camille doesn't have a target to dash to, she would just go to the front line and help me, like, tank kill. But yeah, we should be fine. Gwen's gonna clean up. Let's just hope she doesn't miss. Alright, nice job, Gwen. You missed again. Alright, and now she doesn't miss. Thank God that's not a 3-item Callista, because I would have lost that round if it was. But like I said, you should always note, there's one guy that's losing a bunch of HP. It's just because he's feeding Briar. That player is always going to outcap me with the Briar, so we're playing for second at best here. We have double Camille. If we hit Camille 2, this Camille will actually pop off, because she's going to have Warrior for Omnivamp, and then she's going to have the Spectral Cutlass and the Last Whisper. So as you can see here, I remove it because I'm trying to see if I can move this this Last Whisper onto a better unit, somebody that can not like have it go to the back line and then just disappear. But it all depends on what item I get dropped here as well. Oh, it's Spark, yeah. My Gwen's doing so much work, so I'd rather just take Spark here. Yeah. So I take Spark. I'm going to put Spark on Katarina, because Katarina's just going to dive, and she's just going to do her spin thing. So when she spins, she's going to sunder everybody, or sorry, shred everybody. So my Gwen will do a bunch of damage later. So that's just good for utility. So yeah, it's just going to end up being the same item set on the Camille. It's a bit unfortunate because the way Spectral Cutlass and Camille is working out here. The thing that you should always note, though, is that if I'm playing the Callista player is not moving their positioning for me. So this is the main way you win against the Callista player. I don't think I'm ever going to kill this Rakan, especially because I don't have anti-heal. I didn't really prioritize making anti-heal for much of this game because I was trying to tempo, right? With warriors, you can't really greed items because they're frontline units, so they're going to die very fast, right? If I don't slam Titans, or I save my bows for anti-heal, or I save my other items for Morello, I didn't really get Morello components. I'm not going to make a Sunfire Cape, right? And then it's like I'm not going to greed bows to make a red buff. So a lot of times it's hard to make anti-heal in this style of comp, which makes it really hard matchups into certain situations, like, for example, this Callista board. So you gotta be really careful. So my idea for the Callista board is I just want to position myself in such a way that I try and snipe the Callista before she does any damage. Here I'm putting on the bench just in case he's scouting, in case he forgets to have Spectral Cutlass. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of. Sometimes, like, if you see a Spectral Cutlass one turn, you think to yourself, oh, that's just like, you know, Artifact Anvil Spectral Cutlass, and it's gonna disappear. It's like a temporary Spectral Cutlass. So I always make it into the habit of when you have like these cheesy item augments to take, just bench your unit so that it's not visible, or not as visible to like the unit, to the other person that's looking at your board. I don't think I beat this guy ever. Like I said, look at this Briar. This Briar is like Giga Fed, 6 Shapeshifter, good items. Just fucking ran a hole through my whole team. You know what I mean? It wasn't even close. The Briar literally just killed everybody. Just ran around and killed everybody. Like, it is what it is. Here I lost against the Kalista player, I think, which kind of sucks. Because this is his clone, right? If I beat his clone, that would be really good for me. But like I said, we're playing for, like, second at best here. We really want to snipe this Kalista. I have to roll for a charm as well. I didn't sell my bench. I bought my bench because I bought the charm last round that, like, helped out my bench. I think I'm talking to chat here. I'm really slow. Yeah, I'm talking to chat about something. That's unfortunate. Probably like everything I talk about in this video, I was talking to chat about. Buy the charm, buy the charm, buy the charm, buy the charm, buy the charm. Oh, it's not gonna go through. It's not gonna go through. Okay, I bought the charm. Nice. But I need position. Bro, my Camille's on the wrong side. Damn it. Like, I don't have anti-healer and this guy is level 10. He's level 10, Stand United, Morgana 2. Like, it's just a Kalista high roll game. Like, I don't even know if I can beat this guy, but I really need to... like, my best chance of beating him was to snipe the Kalista. Because look at this Gwen. She's not fucking... You see how close this fight was? Like, I was able to kill the Rakan because I have so much damage. I just needed Camille to attack the Kalista first. If the Camille jumped on the Kalista and just killed her instantly... Don't I win that fight? That's like me throwing the game, because now I'm probably gonna fight the Briar guy and I'm gonna lose. So basically that round, me talking to chat, which, you know, it's not chat's fault. If you come to my stream and you chat with me, you're totally welcome, right? It's just that, like, I'm really stupid, so I often forget. Like, I'm so much more interested in talking to chat. I just don't like the current state of the game, also, which is another issue, right? Here I'm trying out something different, by the way. I'm putting the Last Whisper on the Fiora, because at this point, I don't think the tankiness is going to matter in the next fight. I'm just trying to do, like, maximum damage here. And now I have Morgana too, so I don't really care about my Fiora, because my Morgana should be able to tank a little bit. I did the same trick where I'm not putting it on the front. And I'm going to see if my Fiora can do more damage with the Sundering attached to the Fiora now, so that wherever she goes, she kind of like deletes. But I don't think I'm beating this Briar. I don't think anybody's able to kill this Briar. Just so much fucking HP. He fed like at least 3 or 4 times, and he's like really high cap. He has Smolder too with items. Yeah, it's like, it's not even close. He also has Diana too. I don't even know how. He says like a random Diana 2 on his board. So, you know, it is what it is. I could have gotten a second if I beat the Kalista player the prior round. But I messed up really badly by not positioning for the Kalista player. Right, my whole board was kind of like, I need to snipe the Kalista. Now, my Fiora is never going to snipe the Kalista, so that's why I wasn't changing the positioning all too much, because Fiora was basically like, she dashes the largest clump. So, he was placing his Kalista solo in the back line, and all the other ones on the opposite side. So I wasn't able to, like, Fiora position to kill the Kalista. His board's very capped, by the way. Look, he has Camille 2, Milio 2, Morgana 2, in addition to the rest of the fairy board. However, I could have won if I put the Camille onto the Kalista instantly. Because if the Kalista took a chunk of damage first, or she dies, like I cheese it that way, I would have beat him and I would have gotten a second. So that's a little bit of a throw. I could have placed a little bit higher. But it's totally fine. But that's a 6 warrior game, right? Playing around Camille. I think I played my early game well, I played my mid game well, and then I kind of trolled in the late game. Like I said before, I'm not sure if it was better to put the Last Whisper on the Fiora earlier. I think there's an argument for it. I think there's an argument against it. Without the Morgana 2, I definitely prefer to have the tankier items on the Fiora. That's just me personally. I don't know exactly which is right 100% of the time, but I think my Gwen items are good. Maybe like if I could have Bloodthirster on Gwen and Hodge on somebody else. But either way, decently strong board. Other people capped a little bit higher. Was a very strong lobby. I high rolled, but I think everybody else kind of high rolled. This guy almost won the lobby. I think he was like 1 turn off of Shyvana 3 with trench coat, so this was going to be scary as well. But either way, hopefully that was enjoyable. Hopefully you had a great time. That's a warrior game, so something a little bit different. And get ready for patch upcoming this Wednesday, because whatever you saw here with warriors is going to be even stronger, because they're buffing a lot of the warrior units themselves, a lot of the low cost units. So that might be something that, you know, it's still playable nowadays, but it might be a little bit more relevant come Wednesday. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you have a great day. Bye bye.